For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. A Russian missile strike in eastern Ukraine has reportedly killed 10 people, including 3 children, and injured 61 others, including an 8-month-old baby in Kramatorsk last night. Ukraine's counterintelligence service says it's arrested a man accused of helping Russia direct that missile strike at a popular pizza restaurant. It's the latest bombardment by Russia to target civilians as part of attacks across the country, despite Russia's internal political and military turmoil this past weekend. The United States is stepping up aid to Ukraine with a $500 million package aimed at shoring up Ukraine's counteroffensive. Christopher Martinez reports on the beefed-up military aid.
Brigadier General Pat Ryder is a spokesperson for the Defense Department.
This is the 41st drawdown of equipment from DoD inventories for Ukraine since August 2021. And includes key capabilities to support Ukraine's air defense requirements, as well as additional armored vehicles, anti-armor systems, munitions, and other equipment valued up to $500 million to help Ukraine defend their nation and take back sovereign territory.
The nearly $500 million package does not include some equipment Ukraine has been asking for, such as F-16 jets and long-range ATACMS missiles, but it does include equipment ranging from howitzer artillery and millions of rounds of ammunition to night vision devices and first aid kits. It's all focused on getting Ukraine equipment it needs right now, according to White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton.
It will also strengthen air defenses to help Ukraine protect its people from rocket attacks, and provide Ukraine with additional anti-armor systems and ammunition for the HIMARS rocket systems that Ukraine is using so effectively on the battlefield.
Reporting for Pacifica Radio News KPFA, I'm Christopher Martinez.
The U.S. is imposing sanctions on 4 firms and 1 individual connected to the Wagner Group and its activities in Africa. The U.S. Treasury says the sanctioned firms engaged in illicit gold deals to fund the Wagner Group so it could sustain and expand its armed forces in Ukraine and Africa. Benji Heyer reports.
These target companies in Russia, the United Arab Emirates, and the Central African Republic that have, and I'm quoting the US government here, engaged in illicit gold dealings to fund the Wagner Group to sustain and expand its armed forces, including in Africa and also in Ukraine. Essentially, this is an effort to target the revenue streams of this group. I'll continue reading the Treasury statement. It says, this organisation, this group, funds its brutal operations by exploiting natural resources in places like the Central African Republic and Mali. In Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Heyer.
Pro-democracy and election reform advocates welcome the Supreme Court decision to allow North Carolina and other states' courts to review electoral maps, election rules, and strike down gerrymandered districts passed by lawmakers. It was the High Court's third vote upholding voting rights. At the heart of its decision, the High Court struck down the novel independent legislature theory. Max Pringle reports.
Neil Katyal with the law firm Hogan Lovells argued the case before the Supreme Court on behalf of the good government group Common Cause.
The briefs filed on behalf of the Republican National Committee supporting this independent state legislature theory lay out a kind of how-to roadmap for how to undermine our democracy and undermine checks and balances. And so this was the playbook.
Becky Harper was the named defendant for Common Cause against the North Carolina independent legislative case. She's a board member of Common Cause North Carolina. She said gerrymandered voting districts undermine the meaning of elections.
Voters want the ability to pick their representatives, and when legislatures gerrymander districts, what's happening is the legislature is picking their voters rather than the voters picking their representatives.
Some Republican groups spun the High Court decision in a positive way for their side that claimed the court adopted a narrow version of the independent legislature doctrine. However, attorney Neil Katyal didn't see it that way.
There's no narrow independent state legislature theory that's adopted.
I'm Max Pringle.
Smoke from Canada's wildfires has blanketed the Great Lakes and parts of the Midwest with unhealthy air quality. More than half of Canada's wildfires are burning out of control. Haze has settled over most of the Great Lakes region, while unhealthy air has moved as far south as Kentucky and Missouri. The Environmental Protection Agency's airnow.gov website shows Detroit in the hazardous range, warning everyone should stay indoors and reduce activity levels. An unrelenting and deadly heat wave in Texas is testing the state's power grid as demand soars during a second week of triple-digit temperatures. Several prisoners have died in the heat, and 2 others died related to the heat while hiking. Officials are urging residents to curb power use if possible, as forecasters say relief may not arrive until the July 4th holiday. In Austin, paramedics have responded to more than 100 heat-related incidents the past 2 weeks. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.